some of the things you're going to need to complete this project. You don't have to use these products exactly, but this is what I used. 220 grit sandpaper, painter's or artist's tape, a brush sponge, a tack cloth, testor's decal paper in white or clear, Liquitex gesso, Krylon spray paint and primer semi-gloss in white, and Krylon crystal clear acrylic spray in gloss. We're going to start by taking off the strings and the tuning pegs. I think it's a little bit self-explanatory, so I'm not going to film the whole process. You can start by taking a small screwdriver to unscrew your gears, but be careful that you don't strip the screws as you're taking them out. After you're done with that, place all of your items in a small baggie so that they don't get lost. We're going to start by sanding the ukulele. I sanded with 220 grit. You want it to be very light sandpaper so that it doesn't take off too much of the wood. So very lightly, just sand the entire ukulele to break the shine. Go with the grain to avoid scratching it. Break your sandpaper off into smaller pieces so that it'll help you get around places like the bridge or the neck. After we are done with sanding, take your vacuum to get off any excess dust. You want to make sure to go over the neck and the bridge very carefully because that's where we'll be putting our painter's tape. You could also use your tack cloth here instead of the vacuum. After you are done, make sure that you vacuum the rest of your workspace to pick up all of the leftover dust. For the next step, we are going to be putting our painter's tape on the bridge and the neck. Don't worry too much about making the edge perfect, as we'll be using the sides of our tape for our barriers. Make sure that you are using either painter's or artist's tape. You don't want to use masking tape as the paint will bleed right through, and you don't want to use duct tape because it could take off the finish you're trying to protect. Try to line up the tape as best you can and then press firmly to hold it in place. Next, you're going to take your sponge brush and apply your gesso surface preparation acrylic for your primer. Make sure you use even strokes. It doesn't have to be perfect, but try to make it that way. You could get this in white or clear. I chose white. Checking your edges to make sure there are no pools or drips on the ridge. Remember, you want the whole thing to be evenly coated. For the trickier areas, you could also use a tapered paintbrush. You could use your sponge brush as well, but I felt the paintbrush helped me cut in easier. Just feather your brush and lightly press around the edges. I used two random plastic things to help prop my ukulele up and paint the back of the neck. You want the paint to really cure, so make sure you wait a full 24 hours before moving on to the next step. After 24 hours has passed, use your 220 Grit Sandpaper again, going with the grain to give it a nice smooth finish. Next, we are going to use our vacuum or tack cloth again to get off any dust after sanding. You might want to use gloves for this because it can be quite sticky. Lightly swipe, turning the cloth every so often to get a clean side. I'm now going to roll up a piece of cardstock paper to place in the center hole. Roll it up tight and then fit it around the hole until it fits snugly. Cover the open end with tape. For the next step, you are going to be using your Krylon spray paint and primer semi-gloss in white. Then hang your ukulele and spray the can 10 to 12 inches away. You want to shake the can for 2 minutes before you start and during so that it keeps the paint mixed. Apply in very thin coats, waiting a minute between each recoat. You want to apply in a sweeping motion. At the end, you want a uniform look across your ukulele. It's important to try to do this in as few coats as possible because the more paint, the more it'll affect the sound. After you have let the paint dry for a full 24 hours, if you are happy with just the solid color, you can go ahead and spray your Krylon Crystal Clear. First, make sure that you tape off the bridge and the neck. If not, let's move on to our decals. I've gone ahead and printed out my floral design onto the testor's decal paper. You're really only going to need 2 or 3 of these papers to complete the entire ukulele. I bought white and clear because I was unsure which I was going to use, as this is the first time for me using decal paper. I ended up using white because I thought that the images came out a lot more vivid. A rule of thumb to follow is white for dark surfaces and clear for light surfaces, though I said before I thought even on the white ukulele, the white decal papers made the images a lot more vivid. If you do choose the white paper like me, you're going to have to cut close to the design to avoid getting a little bit of white background. After printing your images, make sure you let them sit a full 30 minutes before doing this next step. You really want the colors to sink into the paper. After that, use your Krylon Clear to add a protective layer on the decal sheets so that the colors don't run when you throw them in water. Be careful to avoid dust and spray in quick swipes to avoid spraying too much. Check that you have an even coverage and all spots have the Krylon on to protect it. Let the paper sit until it isn't sticky anymore. This could take about 30 to 45 minutes. And finally, for the fun part, I've printed out my decal papers and have them all set and sprayed. I have my bowl of water to dip them in, and you're also going to need scissors and a napkin. I've printed out some fake decals on computer paper to make sure that they were the right size. Now let's begin cutting around our image. You don't have to be as precise as I was being because we did choose a white ukulele, so the white background won't be too big of a deal, but I just am a perfectionist, so I like to cut as close as I can. Since this decal is going around an edge, fold it to where you'd like it to be and then snip off the excess. Once you've done that, place it on to see if you've got it aligned perfectly. Next, you can put your decal paper in your bowl of water and hold it under for about 30 seconds or so. You'll know it's ready when you take your fingers and put pressure on the decal. If it slides off of the backing, you're ready to go. As you can see, it's sliding off of the paper, so let's position it where we want it, hold down the decal lightly, and take the backing paper from under it. The decals move pretty easily. If you need them to move a little bit more, add some water to your fingers to help them glide on the surface. I'm just going to show you a couple more. I found that if you have too much water, you can dab it on the paper towel before you put it on the surface. Lightly tap to make sure you get out all of the excess water underneath. Here I've completed the front, and I'm just using a paper towel to kind of get off any of the excess water. I'm holding on to the decal and swiping on the other side of it. You want to be careful not to move around the decals when you do this, because they still might be a little bit slippery. After you have let your decals sit a full 24 hours, you can go ahead and apply your Krylon Crystal Clear Spray over the entire ukulele. This is a very important part, but I didn't film it as I thought you could use the earlier steps as reference. Again, hang it from the ceiling, tape off the neck and the bridge, and plug up the hole. You'll probably only need one coat maybe two, but you want to get it as light as possible since we already have so many coats on already. And voila! Here is my finished ukulele. I think it came out pretty good and I loved all the products I've used. I've also included a little snippet from my video to show you how it sounds.